Yo, what is up, recruiters, search for owners, all you beautiful people out there? This is Headhunters Live, and today we have an amazing episode interview with Rich Rosen, a verified $1 million biller. But first, let me introduce my beautiful co-host. So we have Chris Wessel here in the co-host chair with me. Welcome, Chris. How you doing, man?
Good, good. I'm just happy to have a front row seat to all these lessons from Rich because I'm trying to learn from him just like everybody else. So this is exciting, and we're also going to try to say some things to make him feel awkward because he's in the green room and he can't say anything. So this is our time to really make him twist a little bit.
Oh yeah, exactly. Well, I will say for those who are wondering, Neil Lebovitz will not be joining us today. He is out, so he hopefully should be back in next week. So with that said, Chris, feel free to talk as much crap about Neil as you like because he's not here to defend himself, and that's the way we like it. But that said, folks, you're watching the show right now. Make sure you comment live down below. We want to make sure we know who's watching the show, and it'll help the algorithm. So make sure you like it. Make sure you love it. Make sure you comment live. If you're watching the replay, comment replay. Also, if you have any questions you want to ask, there's not oftentimes you get to ask $1 million biller what his secret to success is, and this will be your opportunity. So make sure you ask any questions you have down in the comments below. We'll make sure to have we'll make sure we force Rich to answer every single question, no matter how stupid it is. All right. Well, that's
after
yeah.
Before we bring him in, after you hear all this wisdom for Rich and you're trying to figure out how you want to put all this into practice, you want to look to DSP for his training programs and how he helps recruiters market so that you can kind of find where the rubber meets the road in terms of how to get from point A to point B. You're going to get a lot of great suggestions, but there's still a lot that needs to go into place to get you there. So don't forget to use it.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Chris. Actually, that leads us right into our sponsors. We are sponsored by, you guess it, ourselves. So many of you may know, we help search firms deploy sales and marketing systems. If you want a complete build out of a sales and marketing system built for you in a done for you manner in 30 days with a 90-day ROI guarantee, go to realdsp.me. So realdsp.me/build. realdsp.me/build. And if you're looking for back office staffing solutions, meaning you work with contractors, temporaries, fractional, anything like that, go to backofficenow.com. This is Neil's company, full disclosure. It's a fantastic company. They've got a great new app coming out that can be branded for you, for your company. So that's it. Go to backofficenow.com. And last but certainly not least, Chris, one of his he is an active recruiter, but he also helps place virtual assistants, specifically VAs for recruiters. I know, having worked with VAs myself as well, I know that oftentimes VAs might have good skills in data entry and admin, but when it comes to things like sourcing or specific things that we as recruiters need, they tend to fall really short. And so Chris has the inside scoop on how to find VAs that are specifically trained on recruiting activities or recruiting support. So go to calendly.com/Chris-Wessel. So that said, Chris, you ready to bring out the man of the hour?
Yeah, let's bring him out.
Let's do it. All right. Here we go. Rich.
Out of his room. We took the door off the hinges.
Out of my room. Out of my room. No, Chris, before I forget, we do need to talk about a VA. We can talk about that later, though.
We'll talk about VAs. Awesome. All right.
Yeah.
That's good.
Excellent. All right, Rich. Well, that said, I think a lot of the people on this or watching this right now already know who you are. They know you're a top billing a-hole, which is fine, right? Again, best recruiters are a-holes,
right?
I say that out of love. That's a compliment in this in my world. But tell us about yourself. Who are you? What do you do? And we'll start from there.
I feel like we're speed dating. God,
yeah.
Next. Next. Time's up. So, God, I'm going on my 28th year, I think, of recruiting, or 29th year. I don't even remember anymore, but a lot of it. So, yeah. So, I mean, I've been placing software sales reps, execs, really everyone on the go-to-market side for forever, for the most part. And, fully focused on software sales reps, all for the startup companies, or fully focused on startup companies, helping these little guys grow. And it's, for the most part, been a blast. Been a big headache, but a lot of fun. Joy of recruiting. So, but that's kind of me. A lot of work, a lot of fun, a lot of travel. So,
All right, all right. Well, so this is one of the cool things about you, Rich, is that you consistently bill north of $1 million yearly, or roughly in that range, right? Solo. It's not like you've got a team of recruiters working for you. Like you're doing it solo. Now, I don't think you even have an admin, do you? I mean, you do everything yourself, right?
literally 15 hours a week, just doing data entry. That's it.
15 hours a week doing data entry.
That's it.
Yeah,
Just
you
I find
need
the
a
list.
VA.
Yeah.
So that's why
I get you a 20-hour week VA done. Now guess what? We'll take Rich Rosen to 2 million. Boom.
There you go. That's I'm kind of at the point finally where I actually want like a full-time or a VA that can actually think on their own, process information.
So
So
that's fascinating. You got that far without you're literally doing it all yourself, which is amazing,
yeah,
because I think
I mean,
recruiters are always trying to think about like getting the most out of their day, spending their time on the things that are going to be most fruitful, closest to the dollar, whatever. And there's a lot of waste in recruiting in terms of recruiter's day and spinning your wheels
totally.
on shit. So I mean, I don't know where you want to dive into first, David, but
Well, I'll tell you. I
Let's
mean,
dive into
to
that.
start with that, to be honest with you, I mean, I think the biggest problem most recruiters I talk to, they tell me, and it's they don't plan. People have heard me say this a million times, but it's they don't plan, or they plan during the day. No one wants to cold call anymore. No one wants to do old school recruiting, and and no offense to Dave, because the marketing strategy totally works. I'm a huge email person, but you got to do cold calls. You still have to make calls. If you're not following up your emails with a phone call, then you're like just like every other Yahtzee recruiter out there, just blasting more spam. And it's a necessity in my world, at least. I mean, I deal with sales guys, so I don't know, maybe it's different if you want to think so. I don't particularly, but I think you got to be on the phones. And while everyone else is figuring out who they're going to call, or who they're going to email, rather, I'm making phone calls. And at night, I do my planning for the next day, so we're all set. Then I just rinse, wash, repeat. you know
but some people think that you work day and night and work nonstop and don't get to enjoy that money. But the truth is not
Yeah.
quite that, right, Rich? What's your day look like?
Dude, what can I say? This map is all these places I've been. So it's all this travel. Plus, a million other things that we do on the weekends between poker and pickleball and everything else during the weekend on the weekend. So you can really do it all. You just got to know how to work smart. But the day, which we get all the time, it's pretty regimented. I mean, this is the whole thing. You just get a routine. It's like you go to the gym, you know what you're going to do, you get your workout in, and you move on. The day's the same way. You plan the night before, so you know who you're going to call. You automate your emails. So, it's like my VA, I find a list of people I like. He puts them into the system, automatically gets sucked into the email campaign. Emails go out. I call the next morning, and we go from there. Obviously, we're going to set up the closest to the money calls, as you mentioned, and you're going to work your jobs. You're going to say, here, this is the job that for me is the most likely to fill. That's what's getting the most attention. It's not always the highest fee.
Right.
Just someone's going to pay you 30%. 30% of nothing is still nothing. So
if it's a pipe dream, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Exactly. And there's so many recruiters get sucked into those pipe dreams of the volume deal. So I'll give you the discount up for, if you give us, we're going to give you 10 searches, but if you got to do it at 18%.
Or they're like, we have all these openings, and they see
Yeah.
like hundreds of thousands of dollars of potential, but all of it isn't even real. Now, you said something I just want to ask about real quick before we move on about, you mentioned about how you email like the night before or call the next day. I thought that was interesting because not a lot of people have a systematic approach to outreach. And like, I think sometimes when they feel like they have to make a cold call, like they just like, yeah, I got to pick up the phone. I got to call people. But like, it sounds to me like you're greasing the wheels a little bit, because like I've always felt personally too, that if my name is familiar, it's like they're more likely. So if you email them like the night before, then you're laying the groundwork for the call the next day, right?
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, half the time my cold calls just say, hey, I'm just following up to an email. It's nothing fancy. It's no trickery like, oh, hey, you got 27 seconds, or hey, I know I caught you at a bad time, but you hang up on me if this doesn't make sense. No, it's just, hey, I'm just following up on an email. And they're going to say, what email? Oh, you didn't see it. Well, this is what it's about. Hey, now we're having a conversation. You know, I mean,
It's a reason to call. I mean, granted, you don't need a reason, but it does open the door when you have that reason. And it's like, oh yeah, I emailed you yesterday, emailed you earlier today.
It's natural.
Well, now I do have we have a question from the audience here, and this is actually interesting. Not to get too deep into the details yet, but I guess might as well. How the heck do you get people to return voicemails? I leave them, really get a call back. It's just a numbers game. Do you pitch an NPC, offer some sort of value? I don't mind cold calling, but man, it gets tired not getting callbacks or catching them live. So what do you do to get callbacks?
Yeah, I mean, listen, a lot of time the voicemail, it's just more marketing. It's more times they're going to hear your name potentially. If I get them live, that's great. Sometimes my voicemail is, hey, it's just Rich Rosen following up on my email. Amazing how it works again. Or it's, hey, you make them a little curious and just say, hey, I've got this opportunity, working for, the guy's a banking analytics guy or whatever, and say, I've got this banking analytics project, thought you'd be perfect for, or be great for your company. Give me a ring, and just hang up. Now they're curious. They want to know what's it about. Or, you leave a half a message and suddenly they want to know what it's about because they're curious. So your whole thing is just getting them interested.
And if they don't call back, like you said before, it's still a touch, right? Because what I found is that if you send out 100 emails and leave 100 voicemails, even if you don't get callbacks, you'll get a higher reply rate on your emails than you would if you never left voicemails to begin with, right? 100%. Reference the email, the voicemail, reference in the email, mention I'm going to be giving you a call, right? It's all part of a multi-touch strategy, and where they call back or the email back, either way, I'm good. Just let's I need a way to connect to them somehow, regardless of what avenue, right?
And then honestly, I mean, sometimes if there's someone I really want and I know this person's a dead on fit, or it's a client that I know I've got a great NPC for, I will email them, I'll call them, and then I'll text them. And then, the email train's going to go. I'll run like anywhere from 6 to 12 emails on a campaign, sequence. And, it's which is, I'll tell you some of that stuff in a second. And then, and then in the middle of that, sometimes I'll shoot an email. Like LinkedIn's usually my last resort. I don't know why. It's just, some people love LinkedIn and email. I've got something like 1,100 unopened InMail messages. I just get too many of them. And the way InMail works, it ends up in the junk folder half the time anyway.
In the other inbox. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. In the other useless Outlook inbox. I hate Outlook, but that's what we're on. So I use InMail's like my last resort. Some people live on it and it works great for them, but
and not even, well, also the inbox is in LinkedIn because you have like the people you're not connected to. Sometimes I get InMails in my regular inbox, but a lot of InMails people send me go into my other inbox, which so I used to at times in the past where I had like the full LinkedIn recruiter and I was cranking out tons of InMails. It was great, but like I don't get a lot of bites from InMails, and I think part of it could also be sometimes it's dead ends. They're not connected to that account anymore or whatever. But like I feel like a lot of them are more and more of them are getting filtered, and I have to become less and less reliant on InMails and just finding email addresses or phone numbers.
Agreed. I mean, I think the end of the day is you've got to figure out what channel works best for that individual. To some it's calls, to some it's text, to some it's some it's work email. Yeah. I mean, some they want to be emailed at work for this stuff, which is great.
Smoke signals works. Like if it takes smoke signals, do smoke signals. Like whatever it is, direct mail, do direct mail. Yeah.
Well, that's it. And with all the new Gmail, and Yahoo restrictions coming out, work email is going to be a main channel again. And candidly, those candidates that get offended that you email them at work unsolicited about a job and they get worried, they're prime targets anyway. They're either losers, or two, maybe they are actually good and you have an easy way to get them out. But most of the time they're losers. So personally,
you're going to get me fired, like really for an email that you didn't solicit. I'm going to get you fired. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to get yourself. You're a shitty employee already. So
yeah, you were like on the brink, and this is what's going to do it. Okay.
Yeah, unsolicited email is going to get you fired.
Losers. Well, so speaking of losers, you mentioned, and I've talked to you before about this.
Why are you talking about Neil? He's not even here.
Oh God. Kicking a man while he's not here. He can't defend himself. No, come a-hole. But speaking of a-holes, actually, you mentioned before the call, one of your secrets is not working with a-holes, right? Not working with not working with bad clients. So I think especially in this economy right now, a lot of recruiters are in the mind state where they'll work on anything, right? They're not that they're desperate, but yeah, I mean, I get during a time when it's a little bit lean, you're more
People are
likely to
nervous.
work with the a-holes, right? Yeah. So walk us through that. So how do you so what are your thoughts on qualifying your clients? Because I think it's a big thing that most people miss.
Yeah, I think it's a huge thing people miss. I mean, there's 100 ways to qualify a client. I mean, right off the cuff, I mean, the basics are like the fee. If they're trying to nickel and dime you down to, oh, we've got another recruiter working on this for 20% or 18% or some, number one, anything below 20% is a complete waste of your time. I would never work on anything of value. I've never seen a deal worth under 20% that's truly worthwhile. Usually they're going to try to find some other cheap way not to pay you also. Is just rule number one for me. And two, when they give you these dumb excuses, there's a million rebuttals. I'm sure we all know most of them, but the simplest one is just say, then why are you talking to me if this guy's doing so good at 20%? There's no need to lower your fee, number one. Sometimes you got this, nothing in recruiting is 100%, but in theory, there's really no reason to have your fee substantially lowered because they asked for it. Because a lot of times they're just asking for it. But if that's their main thing is just to get a cheaper fee and that's why they're going to use you, probably not. Again, lots of variations to everything in recruiting, but chances are that's already a flag to me. Not that they shouldn't ask for the best deal. It's how hard do they dig their heels in for that best deal. Number one, it's once you go through all your agreement, like your warranty fees, like your warranty, your fees, or all that kind of garbage, all those things are concerns. If they're really worried about blaming you for a bad hire, if they need I had a guy the other day wanted a 6-month guarantee. I was like, no, I'm good. We probably don't even need to continue the conversation. And he's like, why? I'm like, well, why would I take responsibility for your bad hire? I'm like the priest. I'm just bringing you all together, man. I just make the introduction. I want it to work. I'll help you do whatever I can, but I have no control over anything once you hire. So, I mean, I give
And
you, and I tell,
if you're a shitty manager,
well, that's it. And he's like, well, we're taking the risk. I'm like, whoa, I'm a one-person business. I'm taking the risk. So, I use this mindset of right or wrong, and people get pissed when I say this, but it's like, I take the mindset of I make more money than you, therefore my time is more valuable. And not to sound douchey as that sounds, it's the mindset, not the reality. But it's the, I can't afford to risk my time and money working for some schmuck because he thinks he's got a big important company because they're funded with $20 million they're funded with $20 million and they consider themselves a small startup when I'm a one-person business. So you got to have some accountability. So I usually tell people, hey, listen, I give you 30 days, and candidly, that's what I told you I would do. And when the agreement we discussed, normally I don't even do 30 days anymore, but it sounds like, I'll honor the 30 days. And then it sounds like you want insurance, you want to make ensure that this guy's going to work out. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, good. There's a premium with insurance. So, for every extra 30 days, I charge another 10% of the fee. So if the fee is 50 grand, it's another $5,000 a month. So if you want 90 days, no problem. I won't go longer than 90 days, but it's another $10,000. And suddenly they stick at the 30. I've had like a handful of people actually do the insurance, but it works great. It's a great line.
Great idea. That's a great idea.
Yeah, totally
Great
recommend
idea.
it. And it shuts it all down.
So speaking about qualifying clients, what about engagement and retainer? Do you do any engagement or do you work contingency?
I do. I try to do mostly engagement, but it's, in reality, it's 50-50, 60-40 engaged. I mean, some clients I've had, some guys I've had so many clients for so long. So it's just, I know they're like clockwork, there's no need to upset the apple cart at all. And they're good people. Like it comes down to, again, not working for a-holes. I mean, you work with good people. It does so much for your business. One, your candidates are going to know when you call, you're calling with quality. You're not just calling with the latest schlock. And honestly, and if you do find out you have a B or C job order and you call a candidate about it, or a guy responds to a job ad, because I wouldn't spend too much time on it, tell them up front. It's not the best job, but it may be great for you. And it sounds stupid, but they'll appreciate the honesty, number one. You can tell them why. And I placed a lot of people doing this, telling them, listen, horrible job. You'll hate yourself every day of your life while you're here, but you can make $1 million. And they're like, oh, okay, I'm in. I'm interested. I want to learn about this company. And they take the job because it's a hot company. Yeah. But people don't expect honesty anymore because everyone's a fucking liar now. Right? So if you're authentic and you actually say what you want to say, instead of trying to butter this whole thing up and make it, making this pig sound like it's some phenomenal peacock. One, they're going to see through it. They're not going to trust you. They're not going to take your call the next time you've got an opportunity. Like I call candidates, I probably get over 90% return response rate when I'm reaching out to candidates that know me. It's rare that I don't get a response because they know, one, I'll just can tell them about the market. Two, I can tell them what's going on in the world. And three, I can give them, they want to hear about what's good, not just a job.
Well, so I know one thing we talked about in the Pinnacle panel was that the Pinnacle Society that you're part of was
Hmm.
the commonality across a lot of very, very top producers is a very narrow focus, right? And so some couple things you just said kind of feed into that. And like you were talking about, you can talk to them about, what's going on in the market, or you're calling people you can call back again with other opportunities or whatever. Like how, just share for everybody like how important you think that is to being able to
Massive.
bill at the level you bill.
Oh, it's massive. I don't understand the general recruiter. Like I think I'm too broad, to be honest with you. And I'll tell you that in a second. But I mean, if you're general, like every call you make is just another call. Like I'm calling for salespeople, sales engineer. I do salespeople, sales engineers, and then the leaders of those groups are the main people. And then I do some customer success and some rev ops folks for the right clients. And but every call I make, they know someone else in that space. They can refer someone or recommend someone, or I'm going to go back to them eventually with something. But if I'm calling for manufacturing today, and then I'm calling for like a plumber tomorrow, and whatever, I mean, what good does that do you? It's a complete waste of your time. Just because, again, what we said earlier, it's being busy, not productive. Yeah, maybe you get a deal out of it, but that's a one-time
So
deal.
well, also, when I first started in this business back in with MRI, management recruiters, for those who don't know, but when I first started back in MRI back in 2000, I was told that this, pre LinkedIn, and we weren't even using a lot of emails, mainly just phone work. And I was told that the best way to get someone on the phone, because you want to build a relationship, and it's not just when they have a position open, offer information. As I was told, information is our stock in trade, right? That old line. And whether because we talk to candidates, talk to leaders all day long, we're talking to the players, who's laying off, who's hiring, who's firing, and yada yada yada. And yeah, if you're not specialized like that, you don't have that information to share, right? And that's a big part of it is being able to share what's going on in the market, especially when the market's down. Because I'm sure you have a lot of leaders out there, or they
Yeah.
actually, great example during the COVID lockdowns. Back
Oh yeah.
then,
Huge.
nobody was working any jobs, but it was easy to talk to leaders if you offered information. Hey, here's what's going on. Happy to share with you what my other clients are seeing out there. You can be
Yeah.
talking to leaders all day long.
And like markets like this during COVID, smart recruiters, they milked all their leaders. They talked to them all the time. They stayed in touch with them. So you're just giving, you're a shoulder to cry on, as they're either looking for work, so they used you when they landed their job, or you're helping the existing guys there, just like vet out the market, and you're just helping candidates in general. Hey, this is a good opportunity. This isn't a good opportunity. Here's what I know about this. I do this all the time for clients, or I'm not getting paid for it today, but I'm willing to bet I'll get paid for it in the future once they land that. If it's a good job, I'll tell them. If it's a bad job, I'll tell them, and they always appreciate it. I can guarantee I've saved people hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of bad moves. In any given year, from all the information, free info you give. But the more you give, the more you get back. And I mean, like your line, you don't want to be this commission breathing recruiter, looking
Pushing
for,
breath.
just give me, yeah, give me, give me. And it's hard because we all just, I look at it as, listen, you know why I'm calling. I want something. But when I can ever offer in return, I always do it. I mean, even to the point of stupidity, and sometimes, which I just got burnt by doing, to be honest with you. But listen, you're always gonna find again, nothing works fully. Sometimes people take advantage of your kindness, but in the long run will work out in itself. So
But you're still getting the maximum value out of every touch point that you have instead
yeah,
of just having a bunch of conversations and or viewing if you call somebody and you don't get a job order from them, that's a waste, you move on, or a candidate's not a fit for what you're looking for, you move on. Like
but
it, you're
but you're
using
moving on
all the
temporarily.
parts of the buffalo, right?
There you go. There you go. Your Indian ancestor would love it. You're using all the
Yeah.
meat, so the horns and all. But but for sure, like every call is useful. You're not just one and done. I mean, the guy may not be a good candidate, but you didn't know that maybe at the beginning. But you know what? if assuming they're a good person, you're going to go back to them for something later on. Again, opposed to being too general, you're like, if I had to do it all over again, I would pick, like the West Coast, just sales, and and go to town on like analytics or whatever type of software.
How long have
I'm
you been
all
focused in that space? I'm sorry.
You're right. I've been on. I literally when I first was an MRI, also I was the when I was originally MRI, I did long term care, which I would if I actually hired a recruiter right now, I would 1,000% go after long term care facilities as a niche, because that's where all the there's not half the country's wealth right now is within baby boomers, and all those boomers are retired, got like $96 trillion, and nursing homes and assisted living are goddamn expensive. I mean, up in Boston, it could be $1 million down, and then 10, 15 grand a month. So they have tons of money now to spend on these assisted living facilities. So it's an awesome niche to go into. If I was going to start today, I would do that. My first two placements, director of nursing and an administrator for nursing home, which just now I happen to live 15 minutes from. But I made 40 grand 10 days into the job, and I was like, this is fucking awesome. So
That'll do it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna keep doing this.
Yeah, this is easy. So until they all
Now-
went bankrupt in 2000, but then we got into software.
Now, I don't know if you can tell the story, Rich, but we do have somebody comment. Tell the overgiving story, Rich. Is that a story you can tell online?
Yeah. It's it's a quick short story. It will still come to fruition. It was an old client that I've done a ton of work with. I mean, this guy's become a friend. He, I gave him another buddy of mine who's super tied into the White House. And this is a guy called George Bush on 9/11. You want to have a good, just an interesting guy to come on your podcast. So my buddy is one of the most interesting guys I know. He's always worked involved with the CIA and FBI, but literally was the guy that called Bush on 9/11 and ran the Situation Room in the White House. And so he's tied into all the Joint Chiefs, and he's got an amazing story to tell. It's just awesome. We should have him on. Actually, I think his story is fucking awesome. So fascinating if you're into all that stuff. But and he's got he's just such a great guy. He's actually starting a crisis management company now. But he actually, on the side, he actually also had a company that was a front. It was basically a front for picking off terrorists. They would use financial leverage. So like all these billionaires would say, "Hey, we need to see, Ahmed at 2:00," and someone else would pick them off. And then the company ended up getting sold for hundreds of millions of dollars. It had a whole software component to it. But in any event, so this guy's super connected in the Defense Department. I gave my buddy, I'm like, listen, this guy, he's trying to get the DOD. Everyone. Once you guys meet, ended up hiring him as an advisor. I didn't charge him at all. And I connected him with another big company where my neighbor is a CRO, this top 5 tech company, and so helped them get in a big deal for that. A search comes up for basically a VP for this company. Didn't give it to me. It wasn't him. It was the CEO. It was his president, the founder. And I'm like, dude, that's fucking bullshit. Which if it was anyone else, I probably wouldn't believe that was. That it was. Did I lose you? If it was anyone else, there we go. If it was anyone else, I probably wouldn't believe his story. But I mean, I've known this. I've done a million deals with this guy, I mean, like we're truly friendly. So I would be shocked if he was porking me, basically. But it's still stung. But it's.
I think you use the word porking in a different way than I would imagine porking you would. But then again, I'm a child of the 80s, the Porky's and all those movies. Does feel like a pork.
It doesn't. It doesn't always work out the way you expect, but long term, this guy will. I'm sure he'll come through for me. So that guy, this client though was pretty funny. I used to have a house in Port Rhode Island, so he was coming up on his buddy's boat. So he's like, "Oh, dude, okay, I'll meet you up. I'll meet you at the pier." Guy pulls up. This 155-foot super yacht. It was his buddy, like it's like below deck, like 9 crew. Like the chase boat was like the launch boat was like a $700,000 boat. It was the most amazing thing I've ever been on. It was awesome. So whatever, you know what, things happen.
So all right, so let me ask you this. So when did you start with MRI? I think it was back in the late 90s, right?
Yeah, like 96 around there.
Exactly. Okay. So
Yeah.
obviously, I'd imagine you didn't come out of the gate billing what you're billing now, right? Being top,
No,
or maybe you did. I don't know, but I
I
know
mean,
typically when you start
yeah,
with MRI, you make pace setter. That's like the big bar that you want to
yeah,
hit
yeah,
first, right?
yeah. So I was at MRI for 6 months and I left.
Oh,
And
okay.
then, yeah, I was like the top guy at MRI in Boston for every month but one. I was in the top 5 every month. I would think I was number one like 3 out of my 6 months or 4 out of my 6 months. Um, Yeah, I don't know. I just naturally got this business. I came from being a stockbroker where I was making, 1,000 calls a day essentially. And when they were like make 50, I was like, what do you do after lunch? After breakfast, for Christ's sake. This was back in the day of the thermal fax paper that would curl up, and I literally had the first computer in all of MRI. I had 77 recruiters in New England. I had the first computer in the entire company, and I had to buy
Your
my own
whole
material. Yeah, it's like good old Jack. So, um,
so let me ask you this. This may not apply to you, but that'd be a certain point where you broke out, right? Where you not came out. That's a different story. Not your, but where you broke out, right? Where you went from doing the 2 or 3 or 400K as a solo to hit your first million or whatever. What if you did like break out at a certain point, like what changed? Like what did you do to really
The other thing
accelerate
happened. The other thing
yourself?
happened at a Pinnacle conference. That was a different thing. That's the coming out.
Oh,
But back
that's
to the
right. That's
breakout.
right.
Back
With
to the
with
breakout.
Michelle Layer, her comment a couple
Uh,
weeks ago.
Michelle's,
Yeah.
it was Michelle's dream date. God. Yeah.
And for those who don't know, we had a Pinnacle
Different
panel on a
breakout
couple weeks ago.
performance.
Michelle made a comment about Rich, so go check out that episode if you want to see what
All right, back on
Rich's wife
track.
wasn't
Back on
happy about
track.
that
Back it
comment. But
up.
anyway,
All
we'll
rumors
leave
and
it at
not
that.
true. I'm on the
We'll
board.
leave
None
it
of
at
that
that.
stuff
All
happened.
hearsay.
The
Allegedly. Allegedly.
yeah.
Go
Oh,
on with the chlorophyll.
there you go. Oh,
A lot of people haven't seen Billy Madison and are like, what the hell is he talking about? Okay, I'm going to shut up. Let's answer the question.
Oh yeah. All right. So when did things just start to change? I always build at a pretty good clip, but once they really started taking off, is when we go back to what we said: not working for assholes. Working for clients you like, working for people you like, working for people that treat you like a partner, not a vendor. And it's super hard to do. And honestly, I'm not going to tell you every client I've got treats me the way I want to be treated, but I have a better pecking order now of how what I work on. And I'll take on shitty searches sometimes, and it won't be a shitty fee, but I'll take on shitty searches because sometimes I got shitty candidates. They need homes too. So,
There's a butt for every seat, as they say.
there you go. There you go. So, or so,
Yeah. So all right.
there's,
So I think though, I think what you say about qualifying clients, I think is good advice. But at the same time, I know other people may listen to this like, oh, that's easy for you to say if you've got a live clients to choose from. If I feel like I'm scraping from the bottom of the barrel, then what do I do? So I think so I guess the question comes back to how do you get yourself in a position where you can pick and choose, especially this year, because this is
because
kind of a tough year for a lot of folks.
yeah, no, listen, this is a tough year for me too. I've turned down more clients than I've taken on this year for sure. Because the end of the day is you only get so much time. And if you spend your time working on bad searches, it prohibits you from getting new searches that are quality. So you got to ask yourself, is this worth an hour of my time? If you're making whatever, break your yearly income up. If you're making $200 an hour, is this search worth $200 an hour? Probably not. If you got to even ask the question, in my opinion. So you want to make sure you're always working on quality. Those B and C searches that aren't real quality, those are just email blasts. If someone responds, great. You can maybe call them. Maybe it's just an email conversation, but reality is you're not spending the quality time on those C-level searches like you are the A searches, and those A searches are going to be ones that you have a better chance of closing. They're realistic, hiring managers. They're realistic fees. They're realistic, qualifications for everything. They're not just, well, I don't know. I don't like the guy because he was born on Tuesday. It's like here's what we need, and we want to get it done yesterday. Those are A searches. That's where your time is spent. That's what you should always be looking for. If you're telling me you're busy And I get recruiters that call me all the time. And it's like, oh, I got all these searches, but I don't know what to do. I'm like, well, talking about the searches, 99% of these searches that they've have are garbage. They're bad fees, bad hiring managers, don't have enough information. There's no hiring process, whatever. Those aren't real searches to work on. Those are just time wasters. So,
Well, and it's an interesting point. Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. No,
I
I
was
was
just
just going to
saying,
say. I mean, but you should be able to. If you're not working on those, if you're working on those, fooling yourself, you're busy because you hate doing biz dev, like every recruiter. Then you probably should be doing biz dev and finding those better jobs that are going to fill those, that are actually fillable and actually going to make you real money instead of just a lucky lucky win. And with the one
wait,
last thing, and the thing,
oh yes,
the biggest thing is we all hate doing. Every recruiter hates doing biz dev. It's just a fact. Everyone in Pinnacle does. We all suck at it. Not about suck at it, but we all would rather find candidates for the most part, unless you're going to rainmaker model and that's your whole job.
A recruiter, not a salesperson.
Yeah, but that's what
That's bottom
that's
line.
where we're wrong. But that's wrong because every recruiter is a salesperson, and they don't want to call themselves that, which is stupid. Because we all are salespeople, and salespeople are fucking good things to have because you teach, you educate, and you make a shit ton of money. But I said this on something else the other day too. But I'm going to try this out, and feel free to steal this from me. I think if you call yourself a talent consultant or an HR consultant, you'll actually make more money, and I bet you can pitch it differently, where you're not seen as another recruiting salesperson. Now you're a consultant. Well, God, these companies waste a shit ton of money on consulting. It covers their ass if they get it wrong.
well,
So
that's funny that you mentioned that because I spent a little time in the same world as DSP on SAP staffing. And
mhm.
I learned quick when I used to be a subcontractor to like the major consulting companies and was providing them with basically just time and materials resources, and they were billing out projects. At the end of the day, all the consulting is just staffing with window dressing, just priced
That's it.
differently and pitched differently. But back
That's
to one
it.
of the things that you said about how much time you're spending, like I think it's significant because like I think we get a pile of orders and we give equal time to everything, right? And it's interesting point too about like it doesn't mean just take on the top orders, take other stuff too, but just give it the appropriate attention, right? Like where you said like, okay, send out an email blast, like, and if somebody bites, great, because like you can still scoop up revenue that way, but just don't treat it like it's gold, and just
Yeah.
allocate more of your time to what's going to pay off. Do something with the other stuff. Don't, but just don't sink a lot of time in it. And the other thing you said about spending more time on biz dev, you could spin your wheels for a couple weeks on shitty recs and make no money. You could spend that same 2 weeks fucking prospecting and
There you
filling your
go.
pipeline. Just
And
saying.
you know what happens? Yeah. And you know what happens when you keep prospecting? You get better at it. All right.
Yeah.
The reason most of us
Measurement.
think at it is the last 2-3 years, it's been easy. Dude, I was doing for 21 and 22 and the first half of 23. I literally was closing a deal or more a week myself. It was so goddamn busy. You couldn't, I mean, every time you pick up the phone, you were closing a deal, it seemed like. All from basically what we said before, building out rapport over COVID, what people were out of work, helping them out. They remember, getting your name out there. It's all about the biz dev is all about the marketing. I mean, the stuff like Dave puts together. I mean, it's all that marketing stuff. It's all that outreach stuff. So it brings inbound leads, and that's what you really want to do. But while you're building the inbound, you got to do the outbound. And
Both important. Well, also, so something to keep in mind is that I've always felt that you should always have this mindset. You don't tell your clients this, but always have the mindset that your clients should always be auditioning for your time. And because you're always bringing in new clients, you're jettisoning the old clients, you're jettisoning bad clients. And so to your point about not working with assholes, they're always auditioning. And if that's the case, then you always have to be bringing in fresh new blood all the time. Otherwise, your whole desk is going to get stale without that. And I will say this as well. When a lesson I learned years ago from a old mentor of mine, he told me this when I was going through a divorce. He said, people are attracted to your strengths, not your weaknesses. And if you got a ton of clients wanting your time, you're in a pretty strong position. You actually become more attractive to the clients you're going to work with versus the recruiter just rolls over on fee or rolls over on terms or rolls over on whatever, right? Like, have you found that, Rich?
100%, because think about it. Who wants to go to the doctor who's like, I think this is what we should cut here, I think, right? It's like, no, you want the
Mhm.
doctor's like, no, this is what we're doing. We're taking this thing off. That's going to heal you up. You're all cured now. Right. I mean, or do you want the recruiters like, I think I can fill it, maybe? I don't know. Please
Hey,
work with me. You know,
This question that just came through DSP. Oh, you pulled it up too. Okay. I was just going to say that looked like a good one. Sorry.
ding.
Oh, wait, but this one. So if you're doing biz dev, you come across the need, not a niche, do you take it?
It depends. I mean, honestly, it all depends. In this market, if it's a good fee and a good client that's remotely, that's like at least my niche adjacent, and they're tangible, maybe. I mean, I did one.
If there's a split partner, if you get a split partner, that could work
yeah.
too.
Well, that's it. You can get a split partner. That's a great split fees. Quite frankly, you're right. Like I did it for an engagement fee, and I'm like, I don't know the space. It's going to cost me. It's going to take me some time, so I'm going to get money up front. If not, not really interested. You know.
Well, it's
And
just
again,
what they used to do is for me, like I didn't do anything like finance, for example, would be an example. If I had a company that I had a contract with and they needed an accountant or a fund financial analyst or whatever, and I can't fill it because I work SAP. Well, if I know a couple really good accounting recruiters, and I flipped it over to them, I still make half fee. And I'm not really doing the work. I've already got the contract. And conversely, if their clients ever need anybody that I can help fill, then hey, like it's a mutually beneficial partnership. I think developing relationships with like accounting, finance recruiter, or whatever, depends on what your niche is, I suppose. But yeah, because if you got the contract with the company, take it if you've
yeah,
got a good partner to work with,
yeah.
a good one.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, again, it's a quality. If it's a quality search, even outside your niche, for sure, because the split partner route is awesome. And
Do you,
but you got to make sure you're working with good partners that you can actually rely on, not and whatever. If this offends the recruiters that suck, I'm sorry, but not the idiot recruiter that just sends you crap resumes because they drove by a retail store, so now they know retail. Actually recruiters that actually recruit and send you quality, not the shit resumes that they send to their clients that embarrasses us all as an industry. So that's that. Those recruiters drive me nuts. They have um, no idea what they're doing whatsoever in terms of quality. And that's what makes all of our jobs so much harder. So if you're going to work with a split partner, just make sure they actually know what they're doing or they actually want to get better. It's okay not to know and want to get better. Just don't purposely send garbage because you want to be busy and send garbage. Make sense?
It's the death of a death
I've
sending
lived
garbage
it.
like that. I think because if it's garbage and garbage out, and as well, I think a lot of it comes down to if you send garbage in, if you send garbage, you're going to get garbage clients. If you get garbage clients, you're going to get garbage candidates.
Yeah.
It's hard to escape from like that downward spiral, right? I think it's a big piece of it.
Yeah, because once the client thinks you suck and you're going to send garbage, well, yeah, that's a tough hole to get out of.
And if you, God forbid, some of that garbage actually pays off for you in the short term and you fill something, the likelihood you're going to be dealing with backfills or payment challenges, getting stiff, all kinds of other, like there's so many other things that come from like a poorly qualified requirement that might seem like a short-term win, but just end up being a huge hassle. And it just takes time away from making money.
Yeah, agreed.
It's also bad habits. Bad habits.
Yeah, horrible bad habits. It's laziness, and that's where I find most people are lazy in this business. They think, why should I work after 5? Why should I work before 9? Why should I do this? I'm like, well, that's how you get paid. That's why you're in sales. I mean, and like I said, I think we should all consider ourselves salespeople because that's truly what recruiting is. It's just sales under a different category. You're selling people whether you like it or not. You're selling, and educating. But sales guys, like I said, good enterprise sellers, you educate your client. They don't know what they don't know. They're stuck. Like your whole goal in this market is almost to try to get them to understand that your internal team is generalists. They don't have the network that I have. They don't like. I'm not the guy you're going to use to find an engineer, but I am the guy you use to find a sales guy, and I can get that done in days. And if it's costing you, you break it down for your clients and say, listen, this is going to cost you $5,000 a day in lost revenue based on what your quota is divided by the days, working days of the year. Well, listen, it's going to cost you $5,000 a day for an enterprise sales guy. So a week, that's 25 grand. Goes up, that seat's open for 2 weeks. Now you're down $50,000. Does my $30,000 fee, $40,000 fee really look that expensive now? If I know I can get you that right person in 3 days, and you could hire the guy hired in a week, depending on your process.
Let me ask you this. And that's what's the conversation that a lot of people are afraid to have or like just try to go the easy path. I know, speaking of like, you talked about like work ethic and things like that and willing to put in the time, put in the effort. And I know you're very good at working smart, right? And I know that like last year you worked 9 months out of the year or whatever. Now, a question I have is like, you know how you always kind of have to tend to the business development pipeline and you can't really like stop and start it really. But like, in order for you to have worked only like 3/4 of the year, maybe not exactly 3 months off, or maybe it was, on and off or whatever, how did you balance like the flow of things? Like, did that engine have to keep going? Did you like slow it down? Did you stop it and
Yeah,
restart it? Like,
I totally slowed it down. Like my dad died in April suddenly, and
oh,
I
okay,
totally,
sorry.
yeah, I was kind of out of it for like a month or so, and then we were on vacation for a month, and then it was a week here, week there. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, I just finally just said fuck it and just didn't do a whole lot. To be honest with you, it's just, I mean, I got calls in. Thankfully, I got a lot of clients that, you know, it's funny because I think right now clients or hiring managers are in a really weird position. They're definitely not as loyal as they once were. They're definitely afraid to push back internally because for their own jobs, and it's a tough balancing act between, like we just said, getting the fighting, internal recruiters, fighting the CFO for money for it, because people don't understand that they don't understand we're an investment, not an expense. Is kind of the message to get across. But but last year was great because I had tons of outreach from clients and clients and candidates. Actually, once I did a post on Facebook, and then a lot of clients found out, so I posted on LinkedIn, and it honestly turned into a great BD, great PT engine, unfortunately. But it was, people called, and once I was back and running, they just, hey, if you're up, I got an opening, for you to work on, help you out, or whatever. So
Well,
there are
all
some
right.
good clients,
Well,
they're good companies, good people.
all right. So that's a good point. So so you mentioned right now, hiring managers kind of in a weird spot. So they're acting a little bit differently than they were, let's say, last year, the year prior, or maybe the year prior to that, when things are really good. So let's go with that. Let's sort of start wrapping up here. In terms of the market as you see it now, like what do recruiters need to change other than, I think, obviously getting rid of the bad habits that can carry you through a good economy? Um, Obviously getting rid of those, but what else? How do we approach the market right now? That's what a lot of
Yeah,
people are asking.
yeah, I mean, listen, this is a tough market. There's no doubt. I mean, listen, I mean, I'll tell you, I did an email campaign that got atrocious, probably the lowest response I've ever gotten in this market for our BD. And all you can do is you just keep taking the swings. You got to do you got to, make sure if personalizing is tough in this business because you want to get so much volume out, but you can try to personalize your outreach by the kind of mass personalize it, if you will, right? I mean, whether it's just for, hey, I'm going after this, it could be everyone as simple as, hey, make a video and everyone named Bob, you're sending that video out to, so at least the video sounds personalized, simple things like that to, just make sure you're staying on the phones like every, day. You're starting with the closest to the money, and then you're going after the hardest things you got to do, which again is probably BD for most people. And if you don't have enough A-level jobs, you spend most of your time doing BD, a couple hours doing the search. But, and I say this probably in every call I've ever been on, every podcast I've been on. I mean, the last thing you do every day when you're done, you make one more phone call, and if it's BD is what you need, you make one more BD call. I mean, my goals always are pretty simple. In this market, it's usually one send out a day. In this market, it's really one send out or one new fee agreement a day. If I can do five, send outs or get five, a couple of three send outs and two new jobs, it's a win. It's a good week.
And for
This
those of you
market's
new recruiters out there, your newbies out there, your rookies, a send out is old guy talk for interview. That's how we used
there you
to. You
go.
say back in the days.
Wasn't there an ATS called sendouts or something? I feel like
It was a
too.
good
I
one.
There
remember
was,
that.
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember that
In
one.
fact,
But yeah,
Both in our office, we say send out a day keeps the manager away.
There you go.
Right.
Exactly. But
Um,
that's it. But keep the goals small. You got the big goal up for the year, and then you got the daily bite-sized goals that are easier, not as overwhelming. One send out, maybe your goal is to get two new jobs a week, whatever, one job a week, one A-level job a week, we should say. But keep the bites small and then more manageable. You don't get overwhelmed.
That's great advice. Great advice. Hey, it's keeping it small. I think having small goals as well. Because I think right now there's you could be disappointed this year if you just focus on, like, say, just long term. I think it's a big part of it. It's also part of keeping motivated as well. I know day to day can be hard when you're pounding the phones, especially when you're older. I think when you're younger, when you first start in this business, you have a lot of just like fire and grit, and you don't know any better. You just do a lot of this. But I think a lot of veterans out there, we our experience works against us in a lot of ways. Right.
Overthink a lot of stuff. And
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, overthinking emails. I mean, I still do it too. Overthinking writing emails. Is this going to work? Is that going to work? I mean, dude, I've been doing this
send
almost
it.
30 years. Yeah, seriously. I'm like, fuck it. Don't care. Errors, doesn't matter. I still send it. You know what? Quite frankly, though, you can do this a few times a year, or not a few, but once or twice. You send a bad email, on an automated email, and then you send a follow-up email saying, "Oh shit, sorry," basically. I didn't mean to send this horrible email. And you'd be amazed how many responses that gets. So I wouldn't do it on a regular basis, but it's a good trick that does work for a response. But at the end of the day, last thing I'd say is for this year, I mean, this is a great practice year. We all know it's hard. 90% of the stuff we do is not going to result in anything, quite frankly, in terms of calls, emails, whatever. So practice. It's like baseball this year for sure. Instead of stressing yourself out, just think, oh, I just got that much better. I learned this new pitch. Who cares? The guy's going to probably say no anyway. So try it out. If he says yes, fuck yeah, that's awesome. You got nothing. You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. So there's really no point of being that stressed over it.
And find every reason you can to talk to hiring managers. The more you can talk, like, just email, like, and even like do whatever you can to, whether it's talking about their own career, helping them out, helping their kid financial, whatever it is, whatever you can do to talk to more hiring managers, and also make sure that you have a goal every single call. I'm going to get a referral. I'm going to get an agreement. I'm going to find out what their pains are. I'm going to find out what their situation is. I'm going to, whatever it is, always have that goal. I think is a big piece of it.
Yeah, but I think one of the best ways to go through having those goals is kind of detach yourself from the outcome and just say, listen, I'm just calling to want to see if can I help you? No, how you don't need any people. Well, what can I help you with? Like, how's the team doing? Are you guys getting stuck on finding the right people for other parts of the company? Like maybe going to refer to another recruiter that I know. What can I do to help make your day a little bit easier? As if you're talking to a senior enough guy, or what are you seeing in the market yourself? I mean, how are you viewing Mr. Client? How are you viewing the world? Like you said, it's just the more you can talk time you can have. Like I had a manager when I first started. They were like, you don't hang up the phone till they hang up the phone. You just basically talk to that hiring manager or that other person until they're done. If they want to tell you everything about the industry and the market, let them. You'll learn so much. And again, you use that conversation for the next conversation. So it's
a lot of truth to that. A lot of truth to that. After that, well, I guess we should probably wrap it up here, Rich. It's almost the top of the hour. It's time for us to wrap it up. I really thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it. I wish Neil was here to be on the show as well, but unfortunately, he couldn't make it. I know you're pretty twerp about it. We talked about this before the show. There's, I'm hoping to have 2 views on the call. You just got the one. Just got the one.
You couldn't all the chosen. I got it.
We had to choose one. So
yeah.
Unfortunately, we're just a couple of Gentiles. So anyway,
you go. All right.
That's it, Rich. Well, thank you very much. Well, that said, let's start wrapping this up here, guys. Rich, again, I really appreciate it. For those of you who are watching live, comment live if you haven't done it already. Share the show with your friends. If everybody shared it, we'd be huge overnight. Make sure you like it. Make sure you love it. And with that said, Rich, we'll probably have you on again at some point.
Absolutely.
Thank you again, man. I really appreciate it. And for everybody else, all right, guys. Well, peace out, everybody. See you on the flip.
All right, guys.
see ya.